Contacts. Unknown. They're tearing through the perimeter.
You've just witnessed Kaelen Vance, alone amidst chaos and certain death, inadvertently awaken an ancient secret that could save him or destroy him. Kaelen's story has just begun. Can he truly partner with the ancient Ark'thun intelligence to fight off the brutal Skorr and uncover what truly lies within the legendary Seed Vault? Don't miss a single moment of this thrilling adventure. Hit that subscribe button for Alien Whispers now, so you don't miss out on more captivating stories from across the vast universe. Remember to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Next, we'll dive deeper with Kaelen into the Ark'thun Citadel, where survival and discovery intertwine in a breathtaking dance. Let's watch. The hot, dry wind of Xylos Prime whipped dust against Kaelen Vance's utility suit. He wiped sweat from his brow, the taste of metallic dust clinging to his tongue. Around him, the skeletal remains of the Ark'thun Citadel clawed at the alien sky. This wasn't a station. It was a tomb, a sprawling complex of ancient, petrified, bone-like structures that hummed with a faint, almost imperceptible energy. Kaelen, a junior bioengineer with the Coalition's Deep Space Archaeology Division, was one of the last few humans left on Xylos Prime. Their mission, to study and, if possible, replicate the long-dead Ark'thun's legendary biotechnology. He knelt beside a pulsating bioconduit, a thick, vein-like tube embedded in what looked like fossilized cartilage. The Ark'thun had vanished millennia ago, leaving behind these incomprehensible wonders. Standard theory suggested their technology had simply died with them. But Kaelen had seen things in the deeper levels, felt subtle tremors and energy spikes that defied conventional understanding. This vast network wasn't dead. It was in a state of dormant suspension, a sleeping giant waiting for an unknown trigger. His instruments registered minuscule energy fluctuations, whispers of life from an ancient, slumbering power source hidden deep within the Citadel's core. He'd reported his findings, but the main expedition had already packed up, deeming the Citadel a bust. Only a skeleton crew, Kaelen included, remained to finish data collection before the final repatriation. A high-pitched shriek ripped through the air, unlike anything Kaelen had ever heard. It wasn't a native creature. This was metal on rock, a sound of pure, unbridled destruction. His comm unit crackled to life, filled with panicked, fragmented voices. Incoming. Unknown contacts. They're tearing through the perimeter. Static drowned out the rest. Kaelen scrambled to his feet, grabbing his emergency pack. The ground shuddered violently. A colossal shadow fell over the Citadel, blotting out Xylos Prime's twin suns. He looked up, his heart hammering against his ribs. A monstrous, angular warcraft, unlike any known vessel, descended from the dust-choked sky, its hull a bruised, metallic purple. It bristled with weaponry, its descent accompanied by piercing, predatory shrieks. This wasn't a standard raider. This was a slaughter. Explosions rocked the Citadel. Kaelen saw distant flares of Coalition energy weapons, futile sparks against an overwhelming, alien assault. The ground beneath him cracked, sending him tumbling into a newly formed crevice. He slid down a jagged slope, narrowly avoiding razor-sharp crystalline formations. The comm unit on his wrist went dead. Silence, then the guttural roar of the new invaders, echoing through the fractured rock. He was alone, utterly, terrifyingly alone. He landed hard at the bottom of a narrow, dust-filled shaft. His head spun. The air here was thick, smelling of ozone and ancient decay. His flashlight beam cut through the gloom, revealing smooth, unnaturally perfect walls. He had fallen into one of the deeper, untouched Ark'thun conduits, a sublevel access tunnel he'd only seen on outdated schematics. He began to move, every instinct screaming at him to find a way out, to find shelter. The sounds of battle above slowly faded, replaced by the ominous, rhythmic thud of heavy footsteps drawing nearer. He stumbled through the dark, pushing deeper into the ancient structure. The very air seemed to thicken, pulsed by the faint, emerald glow of biolights that flickered along the passage walls. He found a massive, circular chamber filled with more of the vein-like conduits. In the center, a colossal crystalline structure pulsed with a deeper, more vibrant emerald light than anything he'd seen before. It resembled a gigantic, multifaceted heart, surrounded by a complex web of shimmering fibers. This wasn't inert technology. This was the source of the subtle energy. This was the Ark'thun's core network, the very brain of their dormant civilization. His handlight beams swept across a control panel, not metallic but organic, smooth and warm beneath his gloved fingers. Ark'thun glyphs glowed softly. Desperate, Kaelen pressed a sequence he'd observed during his research, a basic activation sequence for rudimentary Ark'thun diagnostic tools. He hoped to power up a comm beacon, anything to signal for help. Instead, the chamber roared to life. The crystalline heart pulsed with blinding emerald light. The web of fibers surrounding it snapped taut, crackling with raw energy. The entire citadel seemed to awaken around him. Giant, segmented sections of the walls began to shift, to grind, revealing intricate mechanisms. The air thickened with a sudden, powerful hum. This wasn't a diagnostic. This was an awakening, and it felt far too aggressive. Suddenly, towering constructs of what appeared to be living rock and pulsating emerald energy erupted from the chamber floor, their multi-jointed limbs clicking and whirring. Their forms were alien, terrifying, clearly designed for combat. They were guardians, brought to life by his desperate act. He had activated the Citadel's ancient defense protocols, and they didn't know who he was. A low, resonant sound, like the growl of a predator, vibrated through the floor. The constructs turned their glowing, multifaceted eyes towards him. He was trapped deep within a newly activated, immensely powerful alien defense system, and the system perceived him as an intruder. Outside, the monstrous warcraft was landing. He could hear the heavy thud of alien boots, closer now, echoing through the upper levels. He had inadvertently activated a colossal, unpredictable protector, one that might be as dangerous to him as the invaders. His comm unit remained dead. He had no way out and nowhere to run. Kaelen felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. He wasn't just facing an unknown enemy. He was trapped between a rock and a very, very hard, very alive place. The towering Ark'thun constructs, shimmering with emerald light, lumbered closer. Their segmented forms, like colossal insects crafted from living stone, dwarfed Kaelen. Each step vibrated through the floor, a low, guttural thrum that resonated in his bones. Their multifaceted eyes, glowing with fierce, unblinking intensity, fixed on him. This was not the inert technology of a dead civilization. This was an active, hostile defense, and Kaelen was squarely in its targeting reticle. He raised his empty hand slowly, trying to project non-aggression, a concept he wasn't sure these ancient constructs could grasp. "Wait," he called out, his voice hoarse, echoing in the cavernous chamber. I'm not with them. I'm not the threat." One of the constructs halted, its head tilting slightly, a faint whine emanating from its biomechanical joints. The others paused, their emerald glow pulsing irregularly. It wasn't understanding, Kaelen realized. It was a momentary hesitation, a diagnostic flicker as the ancient system processed an anomaly. He wasn't recognized in its threat database. He needed to make it recognize him as an ally, and quickly. He remembered the pulsating bioconduits, the sickly green liquid from the station on Kepler. This Ark'thun network felt different, healthier, but still raw, newly awakened. There had to be a way to connect. He scanned the control panel he'd touched, searching for anything beyond the basic activation sequence. His handlight caught a faint, almost invisible symbol etched into the organic surface, a symbol he'd seen in old Ark'thun anthropological texts. It represented coexistence or symbiosis. It was hidden beneath layers of dust, likely in use for millennia. With trembling fingers, Kaelen traced the symbol. As he did, a soft, resonant tone filled the chamber, and the emerald light within the crystalline heart brightened, then dimmed slightly, almost as if taking a breath. The hulking construct around him lowered their weaponized limbs, their glowing eyes still fixed on him, but their aggressive posture lessened. They hadn't disengaged, but they weren't about to crush him. Not yet. That's it, Kaelen whispered, feeling a surge of desperate hope. Connection, not control. He risked a step forward, then another. The constructs remained still. He approached the central crystalline heart. Its light pulsed with a new, complex rhythm, almost like a rapid heartbeat. He placed his palm flat against its warm, smooth surface. Immediately, a cascade of pure, raw data flooded his neural implant. It wasn't Ark'thun language, not exactly. It was a torrent of sensory input. The echoes of the attackers above, the structural integrity reports of the Citadel, a sweeping scan of the entire sector, and a deep, resonant fear. This ancient defense network was terrified. It wasn't a cold machine. It was a scared, awakened guardian, damaged and confused. The enemy presence was like a spear plunged into its very core. Kaelen felt the network's pain, its desperate, instinctual need to protect. I can help you, Kaelen projected through the direct neural link, focusing his intent, his voice silent but clear in his own mind. Show me what's broken. The network responded not with words, but with a holographic overlay that sprang into existence above the crystalline heart. It displayed a detailed schematic of the entire Ark'thun Citadel. Swathes of the ancient structure glowed red, indicating critical damage from the initial assault. Key defense nodes were offline. Power conduits were fractured. But most alarmingly, a deep, burrowing red vein pulsed towards the very core, indicating the invaders were already breaching the outer layers, carving a path towards something hidden. The network sent another burst of data, fragmented images of its long-dead creators, the Ark'thun, fighting this very same purple-hulled enemy. This wasn't just an attack. It was a recurrent ancient conflict. The invaders were not random raiders. They were an old, persistent foe, and they were seeking something specific, a primary seed vault deep within the Citadel's lowest levels. Kaelen understood. The Ark'thun hadn't just built a defense. They had built a trap, a final, desperate stand to protect their most vital secrets. And now, he was caught in it, the sole, unlikely partner to a millennia-old guardian. They're coming for something, Kaelen said aloud, his voice now confident, filled with purpose. The seed vault, the emerald light of the heart pulsed a direct affirmation. The construct around him shifted, their multifaceted eyes now seeming to focus with a shared purpose. They were ready to move, but the schematic showed glaring weaknesses, pathways the invaders were exploiting. We need to fortify, Kaelen instructed, pointing to key areas on the holographic map. Repair these conduits. Reroute power to defense nodes. And those breaches, we need to seal them. The network responded with an intricate burst of data, showing him the specific access tunnels, the damaged biofabricators, the resources available. It was challenging him, testing his understanding, but also guiding him. The communication wasn't verbal, but a dance of intent and information. Over the next few hours, Kaelen moved with furious energy. The sounds of the invaders were growing louder, their heavy thuds echoing closer, punctuated by alien shrieks. He directed the constructs, using simple hand gestures and focused intent through the neural link. The lumbering defenders, surprisingly agile, followed his commands, bringing him tools, clearing debris, and guarding him as he worked. He found immense, biomechanical fabricators dormant for ages and used his knowledge to bring them sputtering back to life. The air in the conduits became thick with the scent of ozone and living metal. Kaelen worked tirelessly, often crawling into tight, pulsating passages to repair fractured bioconduits with his hybrid materials. He felt the network's relief as power flowed back into dormant sections, sensed its gratitude as a damaged defense node whirred back online. It was a bizarre, intense collaboration, a human engineer and an ancient alien intelligence racing against time. Just as Kaelen finished rerouting a critical power flow to his central defense turret, a violent tremor shook the entire citadel. Dust rained from the ceiling. A section of the main chamber wall exploded inward. Through the gaping hole, silhouetted against the dim, alien light, stepped the first of the invaders. They were taller than humans, gaunt and skeletal, their dark purple skin taut over sharp bone structures. Their heads were elongated, featureless save for two small, predatory black eyes that glowed with malevolent intent. They wielded strange, crackling energy weapons, and behind them, a larger, more imposing figure, clearly a leader, its purple skin even darker, almost black, with intricate, glowing symbols etched into its forearms. It surveyed the chamber with chilling efficiency, its eyes falling directly on Kaelen and the Ark'thun constructs. The Skorr. Kaelen's neural implant recognized them from emergency threat profiles, a brutal, expansionist race, notorious for assimilating technology by force. They had never been seen this deep in coalition space. Until now, the Skorr leader let out a guttural command. Energy bolts sizzled through the air, impacting the Ark'thun constructs, making their emerald biolights flicker. Kaelen knew these constructs were formidable, but they were designed for a different era, against an unknown enemy. The Skorr were relentless, adaptive, and they had him outnumbered. "They're after the vault," Kaelen projected to the network, his voice tight. "We have to protect it." The crystalline heart pulsed furiously, radiating a sense of urgency and grim determination. The Ark'thun constructs moved to engage, their powerful limbs striking with surprising speed. The battle for the citadel had begun. Energy bolts from the Skorr's crackling weapons tore through the chamber, impacting the ancient Ark'thun constructs. The emerald lights within the Guardians flickered violently, but their living stone forms held, absorbing most of the concussive force. They retaliated, their powerful limbs moving with surprising speed, slamming into the gaunt, purple-skinned invaders. The Skorr were agile, darting around the constructs, firing concentrated bursts that chipped away at the Guardians' defenses. Kaelen pressed his hand against the crystalline heart of the bioneural network, a torrent of data flooding his mind. He could feel the network's surging power, its fierce, ancient will to protect the Seed Vault, but also its limitations. It was designed for large-scale, automated defense, not close-quarters combat against a nimble, intelligent foe. "They're too fast," Kaelen projected mentally, focusing his intent towards the network. "We need to funnel them, force them into choke points." The holographic schematic flickered above the crystalline heart, highlighting several narrow passages branching off the main chamber. The network understood. With a low, grinding sound, two of the colossal constructs began to shift, moving to block the wider entries, forcing the advancing Skorr into the constricted corridors. This was symbiosis, Kaelen providing the tactical intelligence, the network providing the raw power and ancient might. The Skorr leader, its black eyes burning with cold fury, bellowed a command. More invaders poured in through the breached wall, their numbers overwhelming. They began to target the structural integrity of the conduits, aiming to collapse the passages and bypass the Ark'thun Guardians. "They're trying to collapse the tunnels," Kaelen yelled, pulling away from the crystalline heart and scrambling toward the console. His neural implant flashed with urgent data from the network, showing critical stress points. He found a dormant biofabricator nearby, its organic shell caked with millennia of dust. It was designed to grow new Ark'thun structures. This wasn't in the original plan, but desperation bred innovation. "Network, can you grow support structures? Reinforce these points." The crystalline heart pulsed frantically, a sensation of intense effort flowing through Kaelen's link. The biofabricator whirred, its organic components glowing, then began to extrude thick, fibrous tendrils of living stone that snaked across the damaged walls and ceiling, hardening almost instantly. The passages held, but the Skorr adapted. One of their larger operatives, a heavily armored brute with a plasma cutter, began carving a new path directly through a seemingly solid wall, bypassing Kaelen's freshly grown defenses. They're breaching the outer ring. Kaelen projected, his heart pounding. The seed vault was beyond that wall. Just then, a flash of agile movement caught his eye. A smaller, incredibly lithe Skorr, with crimson-red skin and an almost ethereal grace, darted through the chaos. Her movements were fluid, mesmerizing, even in the midst of battle. She wasn't attacking. She was searching, her sharp, focused eyes scanning the ancient glyphs on the walls, moving with a predatory elegance that belied her destructive intent. This was a female Skorr, described in old coalition intel as the scouts or navigators, exceptionally intelligent, often the first to breach and locate targets. She moved with a subtle sway of her hips, her lithe body honed for swift, silent infiltration. Her beauty was unsettling, a dangerous grace that demanded attention even as it signaled imminent peril. She was undoubtedly hunting for the vault. The Skorr navigator moved with chilling precision toward a section of the wall adorned with a cluster of glowing Ark'thun glyphs. The entry point to the lower levels, Kaelen realized. She placed a hand on it, and the glyphs began to pulse erratically. She was attempting to interface, to force the ancient lock. No, Kaelen roared. He knew the network had intricate defenses tied to those glyphs. Forcing them could trigger catastrophic feedback, not just for the Skorr, but for the entire Citadel. Network, lock it down. Defensive overload. The crystalline heart throbbed with a searing intensity. The glyphs on the wall flared with blinding emerald light. The female Skorr recoiled, letting out a sharp, surprised hiss as tendrils of raw energy lashed out from the glowing symbols, pushing her back. She recovered quickly, her black eyes narrowing at Kaelen. She understood he was interfering. She shifted her weapon, a sleek, vibrating blade, and lunged. Kaelen barely dodged, the blade whistling past his ear. He wasn't a combatant, but he was agile. He scrambled backward, using the uneven terrain of the ancient chamber to his advantage. The Skorr constructs continued their brutal fight in the background, but this was personal. She was faster, stronger, and utterly dedicated to her task. She's trying to find a backdoor. Kaelen thought furiously, projecting his panic to the network. The holographic map shimmered, showing the female Skorr's trajectory. She was tracing latent energy lines, seeking a weakness in the Citadel's ancient defenses, a hidden bypass that might lead her to the vault. The network responded with an unprecedented action. From the very floor Kaelen stood on, a section of the living rock began to undulate. Then, two massive, biomechanical tentacles, thick as his torso and tipped with razor-sharp blades, burst forth. They weren't aggressive towards Kaelen. Instead, they moved with lightning speed, striking at the crimson-skinned Skorr navigator, forcing her to dodge and weave with breathtaking agility. The network was literally growing new, specialized defenses tailored to the immediate threat. It was learning, adapting, evolving. The female Skorr cursed in a harsh, clicking language. She was skilled, deflecting the new tentacles with her vibrating blade, but they were relentless, striking from unexpected angles. Kaelen, seeing his chance, didn't hesitate. He dashed towards the glowing glyphs she had been trying to force, pulling out a specialized Ark'thun resequencer from his toolkit, a tool designed for precise bioneural recalibration. It was risky. If he used it wrong, he could disable the network entirely. He slammed the resequencer into the interface port next to the glyphs. The device hummed, then screamed. Kaelen felt a jolting surge of energy, a direct neural download of millions of years of Ark'thun defensive logic. He was no longer just sensing the network. He was part of its core processing. He saw the Skorr's ancient history, their countless attempts to breach the vault, their relentless pursuit of what lay within. He understood the desperate hope of the Ark'thun, their final act of defiance. The system wasn't just a protector. It was a memory, a living archive of a vanished civilization's last stand. With this new, terrifying insight, Kaelen knew exactly what to do. He didn't just lock down the glyphs. He initiated a false entry sequence, redirecting the Skorr navigator's efforts to a decoy path. The glowing glyphs pulsed, showing a successful connection, and the crimson-skinned Skorr, seeing her opening, quickly shifted her focus, diving into the decoy passage. The network immediately sealed it behind her. She was trapped for now. The main Skorr assault force, seeing their navigator vanish, redoubled their efforts, their furious roars echoing through the citadel. They knew they were close to their objective. Kaelen pulled the resequencer free, gasping for breath. The neural overload was immense, leaving him momentarily disoriented, but exhilarated. He had bought them time. They're going to use everything they have now, Kaelen projected to the network, his voice strained but resolute. What else can we grow? What else can we throw at them? The crystalline heart pulsed with a new, stronger rhythm. The holographic schematic above it shifted, displaying not just damage, but potential. Dormant bioweapon systems, deep within the citadel, designed to neutralize the Skorr, but requiring immense power and precise activation. This was beyond basic defense. This was eradication. The Skorr leader shrieked, a sound of pure, unadulterated rage. Its forces, now fully committed, surged through the primary breach. The Ark'thun constructs, though powerful, were being pushed back, their emerald biolights flickering under the relentless assault. Kaelen felt the network's growing strain, a low thrum of pain emanating from the crystalline heart. He knew the Skorr wouldn't stop. They coveted whatever lay in the seed vault with a singular, brutal obsession. "Show me," Kaelen projected, his voice strained but firm, "the deepest defenses. The ones designed for this. Everything." The holographic schematic above the crystalline heart pulsed. It displayed vast, intricate sublevels Kaelen had only glimpsed in fragmented data bursts. And within those depths, glowing with a malevolent emerald, were the dormant bioweapon systems. Not simple energy turrets, but complex, self-replicating entities designed to neutralize the Skorr threat at a cellular level. Activating them would require immense power, precise calibration, and an understanding of Ark'thun combat protocols that Kaelen barely possessed. It was a terrifying gamble. He saw the risk, felt the network's own apprehension. This was its final, desperate measure, a last resort against an enemy it had faced across untold millennia. Activating these systems would transform the Citadel from a dormant research site into a living, weaponized fortress. "How long will it take to bring them online?" Kaelen asked, his words a silent thought to the network. "A flood of data. Minutes. If he could stabilize the power conduits leading to the deepest levels and initiate the activation sequence without interference." "We need to buy time," Kaelen announced, pulling away from the crystalline heart. He grabbed a heavy, discarded Ark'thun power conduit. The network responded instantly, extending a new, agile biomechanical tendril from the floor, wrapping around the conduit, as if offering it to him. It was adapting, almost reading his mind. He knew a path, a series of ancient maintenance shafts, barely wide enough for a human, that twisted through the Citadel's upper defensive layers. He could use them to flank the main Skorr assault, create a diversion, draw their attention away from the core, and perhaps find a way to access a critical power junction that the Skorr had damaged, blocking the full activation of the bioweapons. "Network," Kaelen projected, his voice urgent. "Can you open a path through the northern sector? Create a diversion." The Citadel groaned. Sections of walls in the distance began to shift and reform, creating new bottlenecks and dead ends for the advancing Skorr. The Ark'thun constructs intensified their assault, their emerald forms pushing harder against the invaders, buying Kaelen precious seconds. He moved, scrambling through the narrow, pulsating passages. The air grew thicker, charged with a strange metallic tang. He could hear the Skorr's guttural shouts, their heavy footsteps drawing closer. The female Skorr he had trapped earlier was still attempting to force the decoy path, her frustrated snarls echoing through the sealed corridor. She was smart. Kaelen knew she wouldn't be fooled for long. He reached a massive power junction, half collapsed, its bioregulators leaking viscous, glowing liquid. This was the choke point. Without this, the deep-level bioweapons remained offline. The Skorr had clearly targeted it with precision. Working frantically, Kaelen pulled out his toolkit. He needed to reroute the conduits, bypass the damaged regulators. The network responded, extending delicate fiber optic tendrils from the surrounding walls, automatically connecting to his diagnostic tools, feeding him real-time data on the junction's internal state. It was like having 1,000 additional hands, each one knowing exactly what to do. He could hear the fighting in the main chamber intensifying. The Ark'thun constructs were roaring, a sound of ancient fury, but the Skorr were pushing with overwhelming force. This was it, the final moments. Just as he connected the last conduit, the maintenance shaft he was in shuddered. A section of the ceiling above him exploded inwards. The crimson-skinned Skorr navigator, her black eyes blazing with feral triumph, dropped through the gap, her vibrating blade already extended. She hadn't been fooled. She had found another way in. She landed silently, her lithe body coiled, ready to strike. "Human," she hissed, her voice a low, guttural rasp, translated by Kaelen's implant. "You interfere with ancient imperatives. Your flesh will nourish the soil." Kaelen braced himself, gripping a heavy wrench. He wasn't a fighter, but he wasn't going to simply die. He was a bioengineer, a problem solver, and he still had one more trick. "Network," Kaelen roared, pushing his full intent through the neural link. "Activate the quarantine protocol. Full system lock." The crystalline heart pulsed with a blinding, almost painful flash of emerald light. The entire citadel groaned, a deep, resonating sound unlike any before. The Skorr navigator hesitated, her eyes flickering with confusion. Suddenly, all around them, massive, shimmering bio-walls began to slide out of the very rock, sealing off corridors, isolating sections of the citadel. The floor beneath them rumbled, then rose, creating an impassable barrier between Kaelen's position and the ongoing battle with the main Skorr forces. The navigator was trapped with him, isolated from her brethren. The female Skorr shrieked, a furious, frustrated sound. She spun, striking at the newly formed bio-walls with her blade, but they shimmered, absorbing the impact without a scratch. This wasn't merely a defense, it was a living prison. "Now," Kaelen gasped, focusing his last reserves, "activate Protocol Genesis. Target, Skorr. Eradication." The crystalline heart pulsed with a new, terrifying intensity. Deep within the citadel, in the furthest sublevels, Kaelen felt the massive bioweapon systems stirring. They weren't firing energy blasts. They were initiating a biological countermeasure. He felt a cold, clinical wave of genetic sequencing tailored to dismantle Skorr biology at its most fundamental level. This was the true terror the Ark'thun had prepared. The Skorr navigator, her crimson skin tightening with sudden, primal fear, turned her black eyes towards Kaelen. She understood. She could feel it too. The air in the chamber began to shimmer, taking on a faint, almost imperceptible green tinge. It wasn't a gas. It was a bioagent, silently spreading, targeting her species. She let out a guttural scream of pure terror, lunging at Kaelen with desperate, animalistic fury. Her blade whistled, aimed for his throat. But Kaelen was no longer alone. From the walls around him, dozens of new biotendrils erupted, lashing out, wrapping around the Skorr navigator, pinning her, holding her suspended in the shimmering green haze. She thrashed, her strength immense, but the tendrils held firm, glowing with a furious emerald light. Kaelen stumbled back, watching. The bioagent was doing its work. The bioagent was doing its work. The Skorr navigator's skin began to blister, her powerful body convulsing. He had initiated a biological weapon of ancient, terrifying power. It was a brutal, swift end, and he felt the network's grim satisfaction, the culmination of a millennia-old vigil. The sounds of battle from the upper levels abruptly ceased. An eerie, profound silence fell over the citadel. The Skorr forces, caught in the quarantine, were being systematically neutralized by the spread of Protocol Genesis. Kaelen felt a wave of dizzying exhaustion, the neural link fading as the immediate threat subsided. He sank to the floor, gasping for breath. He had survived. He had activated the ancient defense. And in doing so, he had unleashed a force that had wiped out an entire invading fleet. But what had he truly protected? And what was the primary seed vault that the Skorr had been so desperate to obtain? He knew he had to find out. The Ark'thun had left more than just a defense. They had left a legacy. The eerie silence that followed the activation of Protocol Genesis was more profound than any Kaelen had ever known. It wasn't just the absence of sound from the Skorr. It was a deep, resonant quiet that permeated the very structure of the Citadel. The emerald biolights, which had been flickering wildly during the battle, now pulsed with a steady, almost serene rhythm. Kaelen lay on the cold, organic floor, his body aching, his mind reeling from the neural overload of the direct link with the Ark'thun network. He pushed himself up, his muscles protesting. The biotendrils that had restrained the female Skorr navigator had retracted, leaving only a faint shimmer in the air where she had been. Her vibrating blade lay on the ground, inert. The bioagent had dissolved her, leaving no trace. A grim testament to the Ark'thun's ancient, brutal efficiency. Kaelen took a deep, shaky breath. The air, though now clear of the bioagent, still carried the faint, metallic tang of the activated defense. He looked at the crystalline heart, its vibrant emerald glow unwavering. He had unleashed a terrible power, but he had also survived. And the Citadel, once a dead ruin, felt alive in a way he couldn't explain. The Seed Vault, Kaelen murmured, his voice hoarse. Show me the way. The holographic schematic flickered above the crystalline heart. The deepest sublevels, previously marked with a red warning, now glowed with a soft, inviting emerald. The network was guiding him. He felt a profound sense of trust emanating from the ancient intelligence, a silent invitation. Kaelen moved towards a newly formed passage, its walls still glistening with nascent biomatter. The network had literally grown a path for him. He descended deeper into the Citadel, the air growing warmer, more humid, smelling faintly of rich soil and blooming strange, unseen flora. This wasn't just a defense system. It was a living ecosystem intricately woven into the very fabric of the ancient civilization. He reached the lowest chamber. It wasn't a vault in the traditional sense, no hardened doors or metal strongboxes. Instead, it was a colossal cavern bathed in a soft, ethereal golden light that emanated from countless delicate, crystalline pods. Each pod pulsed gently, revealing intricate patterns within, like miniature galaxies. And in the very center, a single, magnificent Ark'thun female, suspended in a larger, pulsating golden pod. Her skin was a deep, luminous cerulean blue, smooth and flawless. Her 4 graceful arms were folded delicately across her chest. Her multifaceted black eyes were closed in serene slumber. Her body was perfectly proportioned, long and slender, with elegant curves that flowed seamlessly, embodying a natural, ethereal beauty. She was breathtakingly beautiful, a vision of serene power and profound grace. This wasn't a frozen specimen. She was in deep stasis, perfectly preserved, a living testament to a vanished species. She was the very essence of Ark'thun elegance and strength. This was the true purpose of the Citadel. Not just a defense, but a sanctuary. A final refuge for the last vestiges of a dying race. This Seed Vault wasn't a repository for weapons or data. It was a genetic archive, a final hope. The Skorr hadn't been after a weapon. They had been trying to extinguish the last spark of a hated foe. Kaelen approached the massive pod, while striking him silent. He reached out, his fingers hovering inches from its warm, crystalline surface. As he did, the crystalline heart of the network, still linked to him, pulsed with a powerful, singular message. We await the awakening. He understood then. The Ark'thun hadn't simply gone extinct. They had entered a prolonged stasis, leaving their citadel, their living intelligence, to protect their future until the galaxy was safe, until the Skorr threat had truly passed. Kaelen had not just repaired a station. He had become the unlikely guardian of an entire dormant civilization. His comm unit crackled to life, startling him. It was a coalition frequency, faint but clear. Xylos Prime, this is Coalition Survey Vessel Dauntless. We detected massive energy spikes and a localized biopurge. Report. Kaelen Vance, do you read? He hadn't even realized his comm had been repaired. The network had subtly fixed it as he delved deeper. He pressed the activation button, his voice surprisingly steady. This is Kaelen Vance, Coalition Bioengineer. I read you, Dauntless. Xylos Prime is secure. The threat has been neutralized. There was a stunned silence on the other end. Neutralized? Kaelen, our long-range scans show the entire Skorr assault fleet gone. What happened? Kaelen looked around the chamber, at the thousands of sleeping Ark'thun in their golden pods, at the serene, beautiful female at the center. He looked at the pulsing crystalline heart, his silent partner. He had a story to tell, one that would rewrite galactic history. He had discovered not a dead civilization, but a sleeping giant. And he, a lone human engineer, had become its unexpected key. It's a long story, Dauntless, Kaelen replied, a faint smile touching his lips. But it starts with cooperation, not control. And it ends with a new beginning for everyone. His voice echoed in the sacred golden chamber. The cerulean-skinned Ark'thun female in her stasis pod pulsed gently, as if listening. The universe was about to learn that true strength wasn't just in weapons, but in the enduring spirit of life, and the unlikely partnerships forged across the chasm of time and species. Kaelen Vance, the frontier engineer, had found his true calling, not just to understand ancient technology, but to safeguard a future he never knew existed. Kaelen Vance's journey, a lone engineer's unexpected alliance with an ancient Ark'thun intelligence, concludes here. From crumbling ruins to a vibrant, reawakened outpost, Kaelen didn't just fight for survival. He unlocked a new chapter for humanity and the Ark'thun's magnificent legacy. He proved that cooperation, courage, and the ability to listen to the extraordinary can change the fate of an entire galaxy. What part of Kaelen's incredible journey resonated with you the most? Were there any twists that surprised you? Share your thoughts and feelings about the story in the comments below. Your insights are an invaluable source of inspiration for us. If you loved this thrilling sci-fi adventure and epic discovery, don't forget to hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the Alien Whispers channel so you won't miss any future captivating stories. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next cosmic journey.